This is part 2 of my reading with Sophia in Lucca, Italy last year. Sorry that it took so long to get this to you, but here it is. This is about human design, the gene keys, and hand reading. So those are things that Sophia is proficient at, all of these. She's very intuitive also. She's very steady, as you know, through her voice. And many of these questions that I have will pertain to many of you, as in part 1. So just to give you a little background, I'm a projector, 5'1", and I have a splenic response, and my profile is refinement. So that doesn't mean that nothing's good enough in life, because you're always trying to refine it, which is what I was layered on, I guess, as a child, or even as an adult, people saying, well, why isn't it good enough what you have? And it had nothing to do with that. So I felt shamed about, who I was and what I came to do. So we all have to be careful about that, not letting others put their projections on us, because what it really was a refinement of energy. So always making something more beautiful. If it's a home, if it's a garden, if it's a workshop I'm doing, if it's a coaching session with a client, doesn't matter what it is, the wisdom oils I create, whatever it is, it's refining and refining and refining to raise the vibration. It has nothing to do with anything else than raise the vibration of this planet and whoever I'm working with. Okay, so there's some noise in the background. That's the town of Lucca, Italy. Also, at first you hear my voice, but I do quickly put the mic towards her, so you'll hear her much clearer. Thanks for being patient.
And other ideas will creep in. Well, isn't that what we're doing? Ripples are moving out from the center of the teachings, the purity. Isn't it supposed to be?
But it's not, because it is a church. It's like what the Catholic Church or any other church has done.
Right.
They do not want
to maintain its integrity as a structure.
Right, and I knew, so it was not right for me. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy some of the people and whatever. So again, in the world, for me, it feels like I just show up and respond to the moment and not be so much into trying to create. Does that make sense for the 5'1" projector? As the general, he's invited in to do that. Right. He's not creating that.
Right. Usually generals earn their way up through the ranks by displaying their abilities, and then they get invited into a higher rank after proving themselves. So the general has to prove themselves, and then they get the invitation. So the invitation to go forth and multiply, guided by your feminine beauty side, that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. So a lot of people want the general just to tell people what to do, but energetically making sure you're in alignment with the right people. I noticed, looking at your hand, you have a ring on your middle finger on your right hand, and you have a ring on the middle finger on your left hand. So on your right hand, that means responsibility and the ability to care for yourself, and responsibility to the point of wealth, should one care to take responsibility to that level. And what does wealth mean? Caring for your needs and the needs of others as a general. A wealthy general can reach more people than a general in poverty. So on your left hand, the middle finger represents integrity. So a general with integrity. So that ability to be mindful of who you are, what you're here to do, and what you're not here to do. And so many people have opinions about how you can make their life more comfortable. But is that your genius being expressed as who you are and what you are? And allowing that 5-1 vibration of character and personality to move you forward, and it has a mission. It has something it wants to express, and the more we can ground ourselves in the golden path, the idea of the activation sequence is how I feel secure on the physical plane, and I open myself to be a channel for grace and blessing. And then the Venus path is how do I calm my emotions? How do I still my protective devices I have developed during a lifetime of not feeling seen and appreciated? How do I give to me that which I didn't get emotionally as a child? And from that feeling grounded on the physical plane, from the activation sequence, I stand in the fullness of who I am as a mature emotional being. Not to say I don't ride the emotional roller coaster, we all do, but I can take the pearls of wisdom that come and the compassionate heart that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I feed my own suffering and take nurture from it and help other people in a similar way. Then you go on to the pearl sequence. Then from that groundedness and that emotional maturity, we're ready to pluck the pearls of greatness and beauty from the universe in whatever way our abundance wants to be claimed and shared with others. And then when we get to that level, we are connected to giving back and serving and sharing, because we've healed those parts of us that feel separate and feel disconnected, that it's obvious that we're here in this together. We're obviously, this consciousness moves as a wholeness, and how do I contribute back to that which has given me so much? So it just makes so much sense when we understand what's going on in our own chart. How am I in resistance to those fearful shadow messages that are asking me to take some kind of action? And when I can be in the frontal lobe that I can take action, as opposed to the amygdala that's got to react and run for cover, because these are our coping mechanisms. It all makes so much sense, and the human condition is so predictable. That person is behaving this way because they don't feel respected, they don't feel appreciated, they feel like they have to fight and demand things and be harsh because they're so tender-hearted. They can't show, they can't be vulnerable, they can't be exposing themselves in a way that you can feel the heart connection. So when we do our own work and go through our own process, then we're allowing ourselves to be the channel we wanted to be. And we've been informed enough that that suffering cycle that we need to repeat over and over and over again until we don't need to repeat it anymore. We've got it, we understand it, and we can take what we know from it and be useful to other people too, because being an example is one of the most powerful things we can be. I don't know how many people are just excited by the courage it took me to leave broken community marriage and find a way to swim through different culture, different bureaucracy, different everything, and make it work. And at the same time, on one hand, it doesn't matter if I'm here or where I am. Once you do that, you get to that point of, I'm at home wherever I am, and the delights and the joys show up, whether I'm riding my bike around the wall or helping someone with their paper they're trying to write. It's just being who you are and allowing that to touch other people. We plant seeds in our relationships, and we celebrate the harvest we see together. And to not, one of the quotes from Jung is, the unlived life of the parent is the most destructive thing to the child. How much we lessen ourselves to not be all that we can be diminishes the message we can pass to our own children. So they start out diminished instead of fully alive and vibrating as who they are. So we have been trained, who do you think you are? Who do you think you aren't? If we're powerful spiritual beings, the joy of being a channel and sharing that, there's no fear of ego. Look at you, you think you're big stuff, hot stuff or something. No, it's the nature of a fig tree to bear figs. So let's be the trees, the beautiful flowers we came to be, and put out our fragrance in the night air. And someone walks along and goes, wow, that's a beautiful fragrance. I don't know where it comes from, but I feel inspired and uplifted because of it. And if each one of us were doing that, wow, that allowing ourselves to live in our full genius of who we are. And it's not that one's better than the other. This is the linear, rational mind has to pigeonhole and name it and categorize it and put it on a shelf over here so I can get back to it later and I'm in control. I'm not in control of anything. I mean, life is practice for death. It's just one big cycle, and if we're mindful, we can enjoy the moment of a raindrop running down the pane of the window and see the beauty in it. It's so simple. We want to make it so complex. So
it's so true. And that's my thing, is mindfulness I mentioned to you. That's where I'm in. It's just being completely mindful of what is happening.
And if it's complicated, we've lost our mindfulness.
Yes. And also you said something about I question so much and talk with people out loud, because you were saying something about that. Like through others, you were saying. Just sorting out. In other words, I can't be the Buddha on the hill.
Right. Because your 5-1 is an interpersonal personality type. Is that it's through your interactions with other people your wisdom deepens. It's through understanding. It doesn't mean that I, as it's your left angle, right angle, can get the intuition singularly. They don't need to bump into people as much as you need to bump into people, because when you bump into people, you've got something useful for them, and it has to be practical as the general. If what you're suggesting is woo-woo pie in the sky and it's not practical, it doesn't improve my life, people will eviscerate you in a nanosecond if you're promising something and you don't follow through.
Well, that's where I think even the really difficult times with my former husbands were great lessons. And so I needed them, so to speak, to have a deep understanding of surrender and not going into fear. Just being so in the present moment, being so mindful that in every moment the frontal lobe is open. And that's why I'm trying to do this cleanse, getting totally away from the wheat and all of that, because that is when we are so powerful. You know, it's like we can respond in that mindfulness. I know how to respond, but I don't. If I didn't go through those relationships, I would have never had. And I can understand that if that is really part of what I came to teach people. If I didn't have those experiences, I didn't have those two not in integrity divorces, I wouldn't have understood my reactions and what it did. So going into stress, going into fear by what somebody says. In that fear, I couldn't see anything. I was so clouded, I couldn't see anything. So my fear was running me. And then it was when I would drop it, the moment I would go into trust again, that's when the veil would move, and there was a simple solution that ended it like that. Now, I had to do that many times in many different circumstances to finally understand that. It's like that no harm, no foul kind of thing, where the gift was greater than the loss or
the suffering, the challenge in the moment. Yeah, and also to soften the heart, to see the woundedness that causes people to behave in ways that don't allow fairness to come up, and to find that tenderness that can heal the moments we didn't get the tenderness we needed, and that person didn't either, and that's why they treat us that way. And so to understand that circle, which keeps repeating itself. I don't want to spin that merry-go-round of tit for tat, and you're unkind to me, I'll be unkind to you. I can make a suggestion of a just moment, and maybe they'll snap out and agree to something that the war ended. We're not really at this loggerheads thing because that's where the person came from, and they have this overwhelming picture, and you're supposed to just go with it. And then to make a suggestion of what is just and right, I realize in my marriage, if I had been able to do that all along, we never would have gotten to this point where it was impossible to communicate and there was no respect and never was listened, because I would just shrink in the fear. That's what my mom modeled. Why try? What's the point? And then just continue to perpetuate. And now that I started at the end making sure something fair and just was suggested, he went along with most of the things. So he is dharmic in a lot of ways, and communicating and owning his pain and suffering was the part that was too hard to do. So I can see my responsibility, and I wasn't there most of the years of our marriage for the fear, what the inability to speak up and be heard. No one's fault but my own. So that whole no harm, no foul, it was what needed to happen. This needed to be repeated long enough so that the person could take full responsibility for it. Wounded people treat each other this way, and I take responsibility for my part of the woundedness. How about we create a respectful communication? Okay, not available. That's fine. I have respectful communication with myself, finally. That was what I needed. So I don't abandon myself anymore, and no one else can abandon me either, because I'm moving toward what's life and has value, and the aliveness and the creativity of expression in my own life. That's what enlivens me. And to take responsibility for being a numb person, trying to make a relationship work. If you don't heal that pain and move on, then there's nothing you can build with. So.
Okay, well that helps me with putting the pieces together.
Well, it's all subtle energy, but it shows up every day and really controls what we're doing.
Right, and just the opportunity to continuously have another opportunity. You know, I mean, that's that. It's like until we do that, we're mindful in every moment. It's that living, truly living in the moment. And so that's really.
What does it mean? I remember vanity was one of your shadows. I don't have that one. I have one of my own. What does vanity mean as a shadow? How does it inform you? How does it enrich who you are when other people are being vain? And what is a response that helps them move out of the need to be vainers? Because it's like we've been wired with these circuitries that we have personal hands-on sweaty palm experience with. Other things, it's more of a philosophical, because I'm not wired this time around for all 64 of the gene keys. I only have a few of them compared to the 64. So how am I being informed, and how might collective consciousness be shaking me up too? Because data corruption is huge for harmony, harmonic convergence. How can we converge when people are twisting what the story is in the first place? So to be able to stand in who we are and own where we've been out of harmony with ourselves and get ourselves back on track, knowing when we're in tune, knowing when we're off, and doing what we need to do to bring ourselves back on, but honoring that there's a flow now, and I have got to get out and change things, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to influence for the highest good.
I hope that had some meaning to you, that it applied to you, because I find most people, no matter whose charts I am listening to, there's definitely things that resonate very powerfully for me. So I will put Sophia's information down below if you'd like to contact her for human design, gene keys, hand reading, whatever it is. She will integrate them regardless. I believe the hand reading has to be separate. She needs your hand print. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Many, many blessings.